A Burning by Megha Majumdar is a political thriller about a Muslim girl named Javan. Javan's fate rests on the shoulders of two other characters named Preeti Sir and Lovely. Now, they both have their own lives and opportunities, and in order to save Javan, they have to be willing to sacrifice their opportunities. So I've been reading this book for quite some time because I've been so busy with my own book called The Cards That Are Dealt. But that's not to say this book was a slow read. It's actually a fairly short book. This book has a very fast pace and it's easy to read. Overall, I enjoyed this book a lot, and anything bad I have to say about it is mostly subjective. Like, it's just kind of my own thing and not really anything to say about the book. So overall, I rated this book a 4 out of 5, and keep watching to see why. And also be sure to subscribe and like for more videos like this. The writing in this book is amazing. It's refreshing, and Majumdar really knows what she's doing in terms of just English writing. It's it's a balance between simple and fancy writing. Usually, I prefer more of the simpler writing because it's easier to read and doesn't bog down the pace much. But this book does a great job being right in the middle. It's not overly fancy or artistic or wordy, but it's also not so simple where you feel like you're reading the same sentence structure over and over again to the point where it gets pretty boring. The flow feels crisp and to the point, and again, doesn't lack any artistic value to it. The other thing about this writing is that the voice is outstanding. I feel like I can hear each character in my head just through the writing, like not the dialogue, just through the writing. I can hear the individual characters, and they're super unique, but still go back to that simple yet artistic style of writing. So I really enjoyed that about this book. It made it very fun to read. The writing alone made it enjoyable to read. It was very refreshing because I've read a lot of books that obviously don't have writing like this book, and this is very well possibly the best written book I've read. The three characters in this book, Javan, Preeti Sir, and Lovely, are all great characters and are fully fleshed out, and I love them. And they don't feel like the same character, just with slight differences, which is something that happens when you have multiple perspectives. They are vastly different characters, but they're great. They have their own personalities, they have things that they like, they feel like real people. And then they also are very flawed. They're super flawed characters, and I like that. But more importantly, you can understand why they're flawed. There's a reason for why they are the way that they are, like real people, which means they're great characters. So the strongest character in terms of development and intrigue and joy is definitely Lovely. Her outlook on the world and life is intriguing, interesting, and different. I really like stories that make you think and possibly change your point of view about different aspects or your opinions about important topics in the world. And Lovely kind of makes you do that just by her own natural point of view. Like, it doesn't feel forced or anything. It feels like these are thoughts she would have, if that makes sense. P.T. Sir has an incredible story that is also almost scary. Not necessarily that it's scary, that I'm afraid for him. It's just scary how this could very well be a real person. From what I've read, it seems that Javan is the least liked character, though not hated, just like she's like the least liked character, at least from what other reviewers have said. But personally, she's my favorite character. And don't get me wrong, I love the other characters too, but she's my favorite character because that frustration and anger towards being falsely accused is just something very real and raw and just full of true human emotion. I feel like this character can be relatable to a lot of people, and not so much in the sense of being accused of something. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that sort of thing, but also just a sense of having a system and a society as a whole that kind of works against you as much as they can. And that frustration and anger and sadness as well really comes through with Javan's character. So I really like that. As I mentioned earlier, there are a few things that I didn't enjoy about this book, but like I also said, these are just more of my opinions and not really a an objective thing. It's just what I prefer, right? So my only criticism is that there's just a lot of politics in this book, and not necessarily in the sense of political topics, like specific topics. I just mean like the general workings of politics. There's a lot of that, and sometimes it gets a little boring. But maybe it's just boring for me because I feel like I kind of understand a lot of that already. But that's just me, right? I would have preferred if there was some other sort of plot points other than just like the political plot points. But then again, this is a political thriller, and the message is very political. It makes sense why the author wrote it this way. It's just not my preference, and that's why I gave it a 4 instead of a 5. But that's not to say it's not a perfectly written book. Obviously, no book is perfectly written, but this book is very close. I just didn't prefer all the politics. I am going to sort of contradict myself a little bit, but not necessarily. And while I do wish there was a little bit less political plot lines, I guess you could say, I did strongly like the message, and I think it was great. I think books that have a meaning and a purpose are always going to outlast books that are kind of just for fun, right? Just for entertainment. Because there's a deeper emotional value to them. It makes sense why I would enjoy it. And sometimes you don't even have to agree with the message. It's just the fact that there is a passionate message that the author had and put it into a book makes the book so much more enjoyable. Almost always. The story and the theme or message intertwined very well. It didn't feel like the theme or message was forced. It felt like the story was giving you these ideas. It was one of the basic methods or important parts of writing is showing, not telling. And I feel like I was shown the message and not told it. There have been other books where the message was shoved in my face and, I screamed in my ear, I guess you could say. And it doesn't feel true. But this book, it felt very true, and I really liked it. The story was great. I'm not going to give any details about the ending because there's no spoilers in this review, but I will say that I enjoyed the ending. I think that's an important thing to include in a review because sometimes the whole book can be good and then the ending is bad and makes the rest of the book pointless. Essentially, this book is nothing like that. I love the ending in this book. So, yeah, don't worry about the ending. Overall, this book is a 4 out of 5, like I've said, and it is one of my favorite books. So, again, like I said, I had some problems with it, but the writing in this book is just so outstanding that those problems don't even matter that much, right? And it's like word candy, I guess you could call it. It's really great. I love the writing, and I hope I can write as good as this author one day. If you enjoyed this review, consider subscribing and leave a like. I put a lot of work into this, so it means a lot. It's just a quick button. Even if you leave a like and don't subscribe, that's fine. But also, if you do want to follow me in more places, check out my TikTok, my Instagram. Also, check out my podcast called Nazitha's Tales. It's on YouTube and Spotify and a lot of places. Go check that out. Thank you for watching, and I hope you give this book a read.